24-year-old man had a quote-unquote innocent crush on a 16-year-old. Yeah, doesn't sound innocent to me. Sounds like jail time to me.
I'm going to jail!
Hello, friends. Trace amounts of science. Promise swears he's just a fact. We're getting back into some r/classic Neckbeard stories today. Returning to my roots, as it were. I gotta show young Gubbins the ropes, don't you know?
Gubbins know the ropes already. Gubbins think if you talk down because him's small, maybe you go shoot ropes into a gym sock. Gubbins.
Wow. It wasn't about you being small. You're new here. We were doing different stuff besides the Neckbeard story. Whatever. It's fine. We're going to get into it. I'm sorry you're feeling the way that you feel, Gubbins. Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Master joke right at the beginning of the video. Terrible. Regardless of any of that, I remain unfazed. We're going to continue into our first story. Thanks so much for being here. This OP is titled this story, A Long, Creepy Neckbeard Story. I'm all about that. I've never really posted on Reddit before, but I've watched my fair share of videos covering this subreddit because I found them relatable. Preach. I finally decided to share my own story. Honestly, I'm not even sure this applies here, so apologies if not. I live in a rather small town, the type where everyone knows everyone else by name. I remember recognizing this man from martial arts classes that I used to take. If I had to guess, I was around 8 at the time, making him 16, and I was painfully aware of how much he liked to stare in my general direction.
Hey kids, we're gonna start practice as soon as I get that guy out of here. I'm 60 yards away!
Looking at an 8-year-old, bro, up against the wall. Up against the wall, I've heard enough! End it before it gets worse! After a few sessions, I made up a vague reason to reschedule my class so I wouldn't have to deal with it any longer. I'd only seen him occasionally after that, most commonly at fast food establishments, where of course he was a prolific guest, but I crossed paths with him as well at a local festival once I turned 14. He was hovering around one of the friends I planned on hanging out with that night and didn't leave us alone the entire time. That would make him 24 at that point, hanging around with the 14-year-olds. Yeah, like I said, I've heard enough. It's getting worse now.
It went from worse to worser.
He had an odd demeanor that drew pity from the kinder hearts in town. Even though he made us uncomfortable that night, neither of us really had the gall to tell him to leave us alone. Yeah, 14. You're still young enough to respect adults, and he's literally an adult. It also didn't help that we were both small in size and stature, and he was easily over half a foot taller than both of us, so our one-on-one hangout was interrupted by this 22-year-old man who took every chance to touch us platonically and insist our sisterhood to him, despite me never talking to him previously. He read some pickup artist book and he's like, I'm gonna go try this on some 14-year-old girls. You're ruining everything. You're making everything worse. Why did they let you continue existing? I don't even have a good reason. To combat it, she and I cut our night short and silently avoided him the nights after, spending them mostly on high alert and migrating about the area silently. I realize that these are things that we probably should have said something about, but the fellow citizens of the town had a preconceived idea of this man. He went to church often. He seemed like a good, kind Christian man, often flaunting his theism. I realize neckbeards are often categorized by their atheism, which is the main reason I felt this may not apply to the subreddit. Okay, we see neckbeards of all stripes up in here, that's what I know.
Things they come in different shapes and sizes.
Believing in Jesus does not make you any less beardy. Sometimes it makes you more so. This guy took part in almost every gathering that the town had to offer, and everyone knew him by name. Even that night at the festival, he flaunted his theism while constantly finding excuses to hug us or cup our shoulders or sit closer when we tried to eat, no matter how much he smelled. Yeah, and you're too young to just call him out on it. Lay it down flat. Hey, Stinky, can you go sit over there?
Don't touch me! I'm a minor!
Trying to choke down a tuna fish sandwich here. Once again, I didn't see him much after that event. I'd rarely witness him speaking with another one of my friends who he worked with. She was 15 at the time, and would later tell me that, like that night at the festival, he would find excuses to touch her at work. She was a busser, he was a dishwasher, while of course also insisting that she was like a sister to him. Is this how you worm your way in? Have these tactics worked for him before? I have to presume that they have, because he applies them to everybody. Really weird. Really creepy. Leave those kids alone, would ya?
Back off, she's a minor!
You're old enough to go to a bar. Go fucking drink at a bar. Can ya? She would go on to say that he would act incredulous when his supervisors would insist that what he was doing was inappropriate, and then he'd get irrationally angry at work. Okay, good. Fired for cause. You think I can't find another dishwasher? Get out! That next year, when I turned 16, was when the real fun began. Yeah, it wasn't creepy enough before. I got a job at a new casual restaurant as a waitress, similar to my friend. As stated before, this man was known for only eating out at places in town. And when this restaurant opened, it didn't take him long to begin coming on the daily. Yeah, does he like the food that much, or he's coming for something else? Of course, I was friendly. Being friendly has always been something that came naturally to both me and my friends. If not, we might have been able to gather the balls to tell this guy to leave us alone. So he took all that as an excuse to come in constantly. It was also a bit of a pushover. It didn't take the other waitresses long to realize that 1, this guy had a particular affinity for me, and 2, he would tip very poorly. Yeah, can you just kick him out? Find a reason. He's stinky, that's a good reason. Other customers don't like it, you gotta go. He would spend nearly 4 hours in the establishment, eating expensive items on the menu and having me refill his Mountain Dew. I know, Mountain Dew. But he would only tip the nickels and pennies in his pocket, if not nothing at all the while insisting that I come and sit with him, while imploring how nice I am to him. Mind you, this man was very heavy set, took up a full booth, normally had friends with him that would take up the others, and would occasionally pat his thigh while asking me to sit.
I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Well, it certainly looks spacious enough, but there's the problem that, it's a part of you. It's gross. Since I was getting older and more conscious, I would express slight disgust, which he argued against by, per usual, insisting that I was just like a sister to him.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but my sister's never made a habit of sitting in my lap, okay? He complained about his job quite often, and to my mortification, quit it, and applied to be a dishwasher at the establishment that I was working at. Well, that is a bold move. This was when I was coming into my own sexuality, and I remember speaking to another waitress who was around my age about it. There were no customers inside, because there was a bad thunderstorm at the time. She was talking to me about hers, and allowed me to open up about mine afterwards. As I began, he entered the room, since there were no more dishes to clean, and I asked if he wanted to order anything. He said, "No." So I resumed quietly, so he wouldn't have to hear. I stopped caring about him, listening when he stood, walked across the dining area, and sat directly in the booth behind me. Because of this, I continued to explain how little I cared about relationships in general, but mostly swung toward more liking girls. I decided to use this as a strategy, and sadly, still do, to this day. While I'm not a lesbian, it is easier for some to understand me liking girls rather than me not liking anyone at all. I mean, to be perfectly fair, a lot of humans are really hard to like. Anytime I would bring up being a lesbian, he'd cup his heart and insist on how kind I am to him, though. So because I'm kind, I must like him in that way. When he would feel particularly unique, he'd go on tangents about reformation, the usual, all you gotta do is meet the right guy type of bullshit. Now that he worked there, workers, not just the waitresses, became aware of his issues regarding me. Yeah, we can still fire him. We still have the chance to do that. We can make all this right. They never said this, but I imagine he talked of me in the back of the restaurant where the cooks and others could hear. While on break, one of the lesbian women who worked in the kitchen passionately but vaguely told me that it is okay to stand my ground and not be nice sometimes. Important lesson to learn, honestly. I didn't really know what she meant until she dropped his name and told me that I didn't have to deal with him if I didn't want to, and how she could, pull some strings. Like a rope? Just a long rope? Wooden rafter's not going to work. We're going to need like a steel beam, maybe a pulley system of some sort, because I don't think without leverage we could lift them up. But I'd be willing to try. I'd love to see a PDF dangling from a string. Suffice to say, I told her it was unnecessary, and I went on with my work. I think she went on with her plan anyway, because the man was suddenly rescheduled, so he got off when I came on. Even though I didn't ask for it, I was grateful. Yeah, you're not advocating for yourself at all, OP. I'm glad a lesbian coworker is willing to do that for you. Still, though, that didn't stop him, and instead of being in the back, he would eat after work, me being his waitress, obviously. Other workers would pull me over if I looked uncomfortable to have me take their order, but some didn't see an issue with his presence at all. Despite the man's advances, he never blatantly said that he had feelings for me, which I was grateful for. Yeah, the menfolk will castrate him. He's trying to play the long game till you're 18, then he could swoop in.
Hey there, sweetie. How old are you?
16.
18. You're first.
Mom!
I like where this is going.
Be your 30-year-old Casanova. Just as weird as it sounds. And there were occasions where he would find my social media and insist that I come eat with him or watch a movie, which borderline became spam, honestly. But yeah, I've always been sort of deaf to men liking me. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was when one of my fellow waitresses, a 35-year-old woman who was normally the one to make me take the man's order, told me how heartbroken the man was now that he didn't get to see me as much. I opened up about what the others had been doing, and she pshed it off and insisted that this now 24-year-old man had a quote-unquote innocent crush on a 16-year-old. Yeah, doesn't sound innocent to me. Sounds like jail time to me.
I'm going to jail!
Because of a lack of customers, therefore tips and income, I soon had to leave and failed to say goodbye to the fellow. Aww. A few months passed. My cousin came down to visit for the first time for the holidays and went down that afternoon alone to the McDonald's around the corner from my house. Once the festivities were over, we hung out on my porch, casually talking about life and the experiences we never got to share together. Something was eating at her, visibly, so I asked her about it. She went on to tell me that when she went to the McDonald's a few hours earlier, she saw this obese man sitting in the corner of the dining area of the place, broodingly. She asked him what was wrong while she waited for her order to be made, and he did indeed open up to her, explaining how he was recently brutally broken up with by a girl who he was kind to, and who was kind to him in turn. He then proceeded to drop my name. My name is very unique, so really there's no doubt of who he was speaking of. And of course, I was mortified by this story, to say the least. Insisting that I wanted to believe her, I asked her to explain his appearance and say his name if he gave it. She couldn't provide the name, but she explained his appearance to the T, i.e. unwashed, poor hygiene, concerningly heavy-set, tall, unkempt facial hair. She also told me that he had his portable gaming system with him at the time, which was another hint because he was known to like video games and gushed about purchasing the system while working with me. You think he's a Switch or a Steam Deck kind of guy? He's a gentleman of culture. He's a Game Gear type of guy. I know it's sort of an abrupt ending to the story, but it was fairly recent, so it's hard for me to come to a conclusion regarding something so fresh in my mind. I could go on speaking of how often he called me pretty and how chivalrous he tried to be, but I feel like it would all be sort of useless. And I usually feel awful with myself knowing that I'm keeping this thing to myself rather than taking it to someone in law enforcement, because of its clear PDF implications, you see. Maybe it's because I've heard so many others with the exact same stories that I assume someone's already done it. Maybe it's because I've talked to a friend whose father's in law enforcement and tells me he's harmless and the cops aren't concerned about it. Honestly, I feel like I'm part of the problem. Either way, it was nice to let all this out, and I appreciate you all for giving me this platform to let it out on. Thank you. No, truly thank you, OP, for sharing the story. I mean, I really hope that this guy would receive some street justice at some point, but hopefully it's just coming down the pipe, you know? Cops don't want to move on a lot of stuff. Maybe you're just not talking to the right cop, you know?
Whoa, that was close.
You need to find a newbie who's trying to earn his stripes and take down the whatever McDonald's grooming gang that he has going on there. I don't know what the hell's happening, but I don't like it. It started weird, it only got weirder. 8 years old, 8 to 16, and you had to deal with this fucking weirdo who gets a pass because he's involved with the church. It's enraging. Truly it is. Ugh, Gubbins, what do you have to say, buddy?
Behold, the tragic tale of Sir Sweatsalot, protector of unwanted hugs, and Duke of the McNugget Court. No maiden doth yearn for the touch of a greasy Mountain Dew-scented guardian, Gubbins.
Well, that's true. I think the age gap is a little, more concerning than the Mountain Dew scented, but neither one's good, okay? You combine them, super red flag territory. We'll get into another Neckbeard story, because I need to take a shower after this one. Absolutely terrible, but we'll scrub it from our minds, and I'll see you over there. The story of Sweaty Neckbeard Samurai. A D&D neckbeard. Oh, it's been a while since we did tabletop horror stories, hasn't it? Well, let's try this out. This happened a couple months ago. After processing the events with my friends, it's been a while since I posted anything on Reddit, so I may just start off on here. I am an artist. I usually draw anime-style characters and OC characters, like mine, which I created, Majin Tofu. I made a Twitter page dedicated to her, and it got quite a lot of attention from fans, since she was my escape from bad mental thoughts. And well, I can agree that some things I draw may be lewd. I'm also a type that some would describe as ooh-woo pink gamer girl with the pink PC setup and fashion mainly being either Japanese, like Manhara, Fairy K, Lolita, etc., or simply cute. Wow, awesome. All of this really prescient information. I'm glad we have it now. Can we please move the fuck on before it turns into a Mary Sue situation? Thank you. After quarantine, when stores and social places were opening up, I decided to go out into town with a friend that I hadn't seen ever since the UK's first lockdown. We visited some of our favorite stores, many of which shut down. I really wanted to get some figurines or mangas, so I looked up on Google Maps for any manga stores. Google showed me the way to a store that was in a shady alleyway. However, it was brightly lit up. Turned out it was a comic book and D&D store, so I went inside to see what kind of things they had. Yes, perhaps a pink mouse pad for my pink PC setup.
I think I for real just got a virus.
Because I was very interested in D&D and playing it in the future, I picked up a few books, a player's guide, and a monster manual for fun. Once checking them out, the store's owner asked me if I played D&D, and I replied that I really wanted to, but no one I know hosts one, so he insisted that I join into his campaign, telling me that if I had a character sheet already made, then I could join in the very next day. He told me all the details and told me to text him over WhatsApp if I'll be joining in. Well, the answer was yes. I really wanted to join in, and I already had a character sheet made for a Dark Elf Bard. The next day, I went in, after the store was closed, with some snacks in my bag and feeling confidently nervous about it. I think it's good that you want to try this thing out. Unfortunately, I think this experience is going to drive you away from the hobby forever.
You guys want to play some D&D? Oh, Jesus Christ! You want to play some D&D?
OP says, at first I was panicked because the door was locked, but the store owner unlocked it and let me in, asking how I was and if I'm ready for the story. Apparently they already played the pilot of the story, so I'm joining in as someone who just came to town on their own and joining up with the group for some quests. The table was beyond what I expected. Customized board with their own buildings and figurines. The owner even gave me a figure of an elf as a gift and for me to play as. And because one person was not at the table and running late, I was able to introduce myself to everyone. Most in there were very friendly and respectful, and I did make friends with a few of them. Some even told me that they cosplay regularly and sometimes will make costumes for their own D&D character. Lit. When I was showing them some of my pictures of cosplays and fursuits that I made before leaving the furry fandom, this explains a lot, honestly, the store owner, also the DM/dungeon master, got up to get the door, and a moment later, large footsteps came down the stairs. It was the Neckbeard. Everyone went silent, and I sat down, unsure what to do, as Neckbeard looked at us and looked at me. His look sent shivers down my spine, and I couldn't pinpoint why. Gut feeling. He looked like a regular anime fan. He was wearing a black graphic t-shirt that had Kana on it. That's the character that's a dragon aged 300 years but looks like a 5-year-old girl. Ugh. And that t-shirt made me wonder what kind of guy he is. I mean, when someone tells you who they are, believe them, okay? There's only one type of guy that's gonna wear that fucking t-shirt. Even if he just really likes the anime, yeah, not interested, thanks. He sat down at the end of the table as if it was his place, before leaning toward me and thrusting his skinny hand out, introducing himself as Neckbeard. I laughed off the hand awkwardly and introduced myself as, myself, OP. Once the DM sat down, he started off the game, with our characters meeting up and going on a quest to a cave to find some missing royal jewels that had been stolen by goblins, with my dark elf aiding the party with songs and poems of her past encounters with certain people and mocking the goblins at the same time. Midway, we decided to take a small break. Some of the players went outside for a smoke. I decided to chat with a friend, Krellith. I won't use real names, just character names. And we chatted about animes that we wanted to watch, and of course, that caught Neckbeard's attention. He was just fiddling on his phone, but this made him decide to join in, and I didn't mind that so much, so we chatted about it. I mentioned that I like Dragon Ball and made my own characters. Neckbeard asked if I had any designs on them, so I gave him my Twitter so he could look through the art of my many characters. He called my OC Tofu hot and a breedable big.
Wow, the cringe is so strong, it's like a bump of coke.
Pointing out that Majins are very stretchy, so they can make their fish wrinkle feel like it's brand new every time. And yeah, I immediately regretted giving my socials to him. Now I gotta change my whole username? We're fucked! Live and learn, OP, I guess. Damn. You shared something personal about yourself and he's just quick to make it as awkward as possible. I don't know how you fix that. Anyway, after the game, I left the store and went to the bus stop and realized that Neckbeard was at the same bus stop that I was. We didn't talk, but I felt his stare coming towards me as I was messaging my boyfriend to let him know that I'm okay and on my way home. Neckbeard came close to me and asked if I was taking the same bus as him, which was number 23, and I gave him a nod. Neckbeard then questioned me if I had any more of those characters I drew art of. I looked at him and asked if he promised not to say anything weird about them, and he asked, "Weird? Like what?" He laughed it off. I told him about the breedable thing, and he laughed at it once more, saying that I drew her in that way with huge boobs and tight clothing, so I should expect and accept those types of comments. So I told him back that it's wrong to say that sort of thing, and I put my headphones on and tried messaging my boyfriend to see if he could possibly pick me up instead, as I didn't think the long bus ride home with Neckbeard asking about my characters and other things would be the best time. In the end, my boyfriend did come down to the bus stop, Oh, that must have burnt Neckbeard up. I kindly waved Neckbeard off and went inside the car. He asked who that guy was, and I told him it was just some guy who played Dungeons and Dragons with me. Later on, my phone started to get a lot of messages. A message request from Neckbeard on my Twitter saying he's sorry for those comments, and then asking if he could see more of the characters. I accepted his apology and sent him a few, and he appreciated the art and the design in them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just stashing those away. Spank bank material for later, you know?
I love you so much for.
A real girl drew this with her girl hands. Ah! So a couple weeks go by. Our D&D party finally leveled up to level 2. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, just start at level 3, please. Let's have some real fucking adventure, shall we? In the end, we all went out to the nearest McDonald's to get some food before all parting ways to go back home. Me and Krelith were sitting next to each other, as we both thought of going to another town to do some anime shopping together, get some figures, mangas, other stuff. This is like a once-a-month trip for me, you know? Just ballpark it for me. How much money have you spent on plastic crap in this first half of the month alone? You need to cut that shit out, man. That's not how we get ahead, man. Alright, pro tips for life, whatever. Want some more pro tips for life in your ear, maybe at work, without any visual representation? Well, we got Spotify, iTunes, ReddX, we're everywhere. You could leave a review, watch some Spotify ReddX podcasts, that would be wonderful. I implore you. Anyway, Neckbeard was sitting on his own in a corner, and we insisted he joins in with this, but he told us, no! And mainly was just on his phone, watching something. That's merciful, I guess. Before everyone left, I picked up a small meal for my boyfriend and went to the bus stop with Neckbeard. I asked Neckbeard what he was watching, and he looked at me, telling me, it's none of my concern. I jokingly said, was it adult anime videos? And he acted out one of those "Nani" moments in anime. Oh, how did you know? He asked me, thinking I might have seen it when I walked past him or something. I just stayed quiet and continued to walk toward the bus stop. I didn't know. It was a joke and you exposed yourself completely. Why are you watching that shit out in public? It's gross, dude. Like, it's gross even by yourself, but just no shame at all, really? Okay. Well, me and Neckbeard stood at the stop, and he asked if I'm buying another meal for when I get home. I told him no, and said it was for my boyfriend for when he comes back from work. He then stood in front of me, being quite close, and placed his hands onto the bus stop walls. I believe he was thinking that it would be the most romantic way, like in the types of animes he watches. He breathed down onto my face and told me that I was the most beautiful, kindest, talented person in the world, and that he wants to go out on a date with me. I told him, no, I already have a boyfriend that I'm very happy to be with. And he told me that I should just dump him and go out with Neckbeard instead. He promises that he's better than boyfriend. I still told him, no, and I walked out of the awkward position. He then asked if he could go out with my characters, that he could just role play with them. It'll be fine, he said, and I told him no. And told him not to ask me for anything like that again. That's right, if I can't have the girl or her hand, I can have the characters drawn by her hand. And she's like, nah. Damn, shut down around every corner. It's hard living out here for a freak, I'll tell you that. The bus ride home was awkward. He still attempted to ask the same thing and sit next to me, but I was able to get out of the seat and sit in another area. Once I got home, I made sure Neckbeard didn't follow me. He still messaged me with the asterisks for the role plays that he began himself. I ignored the messages. I read them, but I did ignore them. Once my boyfriend got home, we snuggled up under the blankets to finish some My Hero Academia, and once we decided to go to bed, I checked the messages and saw that Neckbeard had blocked me. I scrolled through the messages, and it seemed like his kindness slowly went down to being an asshole in general. Called me a slut for once wearing a maid dress at the D&D game, which the party didn't mind and actually told me to wear one, and for leading him on to thinking that we'd become more than friends and And he also mentioned that he hoped I was still happy with that maltreating Chad boyfriend that he knows very well cheats on me. Opie says, my boyfriend went through a lot of toxic relationships with his exes cheating and using him for money, and I highly trust and love him to the point that I know he isn't cheating on me. Oh, good for you. I mean, you can never know for sure, but good for you. I laughed it off, showed my boyfriend the messages, and he told me that if I see Neckbeard again, tell boyfriend so he could go beat him up. Easy way to handle it.
Look, violence is never the answer.
It's the solution.
After the events, Neckbeard still came to the D&D games, but he made his character like one of those edgy loner characters, saying he could do it on his own. He can't trust anyone in the party, as a certain dark elf bard broke the samurai's heart. He slowly stopped coming to the game, and we didn't really pay much attention to it anyway. Just recently, when we were on a long journey, Kraylith asked my character to sing them a song for the journey, only for me to reply, alrighty then, here's a story of the sweaty neckbeard samurai. Yes, a story that the entire party knows all too well at this point, but thankfully the book is closed on that story. No more requests for weird drawings, no more grand romantic gesture after she just told you she had a boyfriend 5 seconds ago. I don't know how you ever thought this was going to work out. I guess he really thought he was putting the moves down. She's nice to him a little bit, and he's like, I'm in, I know what that means, she smiled. Doesn't mean anything. Sometimes people smile. How do you feel about this one, little boy?
Sweaty neckbeard samurai, no noble warrior. Him stink like stale ramen and cry about honor while trying to romance anime waifus with greasy hand. Gubbins think this sad greasy goblin should go back to his cave and stop pretending to be majestic dragon. Gubbins disgust.
I think we're all disgusted. I don't think anybody's fallen for the dragon magic here. That's a cave troll, not a dragon. I got my degree in mythological creatures from Harry Potter University or whatever the hell it is. No, not really, I don't. I'm just a neckbeard scientist, or I play one on YouTube. But it's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, sign up on the Patreon, YouTube memberships. Fourth wall, we got some merch. That's about all I wanted to say. Aside from, always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye.